philosophy of education is not just a set of written words, it is a reflection on a platform in which decisions about teaching and learning are made in an effort to develop the learners. A good philosophy for beginning teachers is to become comfortable with a variety of practices that address different learners' needs. It's not a matter of selecting one methodology over another. You need to understand the differences within the methodologies and then select an appropriate one for your students. Your educational philosophy will differ from your first year of teaching to your 10th year of teaching to your 20th year of teaching until you end your career within teaching. Your philosophy will evolve over time based on what you know, what you learn through research, and through your students. Your educational philosophy will go over how your curriculum is organized, the manner and how you instruct your students and how it is delivered, the characteristics of your school environment and your classroom environment, the process used in your testing and grading, and how you use that to change or adjust when learning is needed to be changed. Behaviors of educational philosophies primarily employs the teachers based on authority. Constructivism of education focus on developing students' individual meaning, hence they provide greater opportunity for students to decide what classroom rules should be followed. 3 teacher-centered or educational philosophies are essentialism, behavioralism, positivism. 3 student-centered educational philosophies are progressivism, humanism, and constructivism. The approach of each of these teacher-centered educational philosophies is to the subject matter, the classroom organization, and the teaching methods and the assessments placed on the responsibility of the teacher. The teacher decides what is important for the learning. All of these are rooted in the authoritarian principle, that is, the truth and goodness are entities best understood by the person with experience who is in charge, which is the teacher in this case. The students need to attempt to master and follow the instructions and directions of those in power of the teacher. Essentialist teaching methods are required from disciplines through emphasis on requiring reading, lectures, memorization, repetition, and examinations. Essentialism holds that an educated person in a given culture must have a common core of information and skills. The basic principles of essentialism is 1. A core of information, 2. Hard work and mental discipline, and 3. Teacher-centered instruction. Essentialism draws equally from philosophies of both idealism and realism. Essentialists, they advocate that teaching of the basic core information that will help a person live a productive life today. They also stress that the disciplined development of basic skills rather than uncovering the underlying principles of the subject matter. The goals are to transmit the cultural heritage and develop good citizens. The role of the student is that of a learner, and that the teacher is the person who can best instruct students in essential matters. A curriculum includes literature, history, foreign language, and religion. Teaching methods require formal disciplines that require reading, lectures, memorization, repetition, and examinations. Sizer believed that students need to master a common core of information and skills, and he encourages that schools to strip away the non-essentials and focus on having students use their minds well. 8 common core principles have been developed by Dr. Sizer. 1. Use of the mind well with the focus on clear essential learning goals. 2. An attempt to apply these goals to all students. Personalized teaching and learning, emphasis on student as a worker, student performance on real tasks with multiple forms of evidence. Principal and teachers are generous first and specialists second. Budget that do not exceed those of traditional schools by more than 10%, and non-discriminatory policies and practices. Behaviorism is a psychological theory and educational philosophy that holds that one's behavior is determined by the environment and not by genetics. It's also believed that human behavior could be explained by responses to external stimuli. Behaviorism is closely linked to realism because of the careful examination of environment, behaviors, and responses. Since behaviors are closely related to the environment a person lives in and not heredity, teachers can significantly influence students' behavior. School environment must be highly organized and the curriculum based on careful development and behavioral objectives. Teachers need to develop learning environments that lead to desirable behaviors in their students. Reinforcement is critical to teaching practices and behaviorism. Behaviorist teachers endeavors to foster desirable behaviors by using both positive reinforcements, like praise, privileges, and negative reinforcements, like reprimands, extra homework. Behaviorists believe that the behavior that is not reinforced will eventually be extinguished. Nonverbal positive reinforcements could be smiling, nodding, and negative reinforcements could be frowning or shaking their head. Behaviorists believe that students tend to emulate behaviors that are rewarded. Behaviorists do not learn what causes the student's problem, but they rather focus on reinforcement that change the desirable behavior. Humankind can be broken up into three historic periods in time. The first was the theological era, in which people explained things by reference to spirits and God. The second was the metaphysical era, in which people explained phenomena in terms of cause, essence, and inner principle. The third was the positive period, in which thinkers did not attempt to go beyond observable, measurable fact. Positivist position rejects essence, intuition, and inner cause that cannot be measured. This educational philosophy rejects beliefs about mind, spirit, and consciousness and holds that all reality can be explained by the law of matter and motion. Positivism limits knowledge to statements of observable facts based on sense, perception, and investigation of object reality. Positivist learning focus. Direct instruction is a teaching and learning approach that requires teachers to clearly and precisely identify and state what a student needs to learn and master. Teachers need to restate this expectation through different assignments and different projects. Teachers are expected to clearly describe to the students exactly what they should know and want to do. Teachers are encouraged to use repetition and have students practice and practice again, recite and recite again. Teachers are further encouraged to have students repeat the main idea of instruction, either by oral, written, restating, or drawing. Positivists focus on the curriculum on the acquisition of facts based on careful empirical observation and measurements of the world. Schools' content standards need to be the best understanding of experts who have already uncovered the important ideas based on their own observation and measurements. Progressivism is an educational theory that emphasizes that ideas should be tested by experimentation and that the learning is rooted in questions developed by the learners. The learners' questions always must be tested by experimentation. Progressivists favor human experience rather than authority as a base of knowledge. Progressivism favors the scientific method of teaching and learning, allowing for the beliefs of individuals and stresses programs for students' involvement that help students learn how to think. They emphasize learning how to think rather than what to think for students. They prefer divergent thinking, moving beyond conventional ideas to come up with novel interpretations or solutions to the different problems of the world. Life experience determines the curriculum content, and all types of content must be permitted. Progressivist educators would organize scientific method-oriented learning activities around traditional subjects, called student-centered. Student-centered curriculum stresses the process of learning rather than the results of the learning. Schools need to take on the important task of improving society. Progressivism is deemed a working model of democracy. Freedom is explicit in a democracy, so it must be explicit in schools. But freedom, rather than being a haphazard expression of free will, it must be organized to have a meaning. Organized freedom permits each member of the school society, the students, to take part in decision-making, and all must share their experiences to ensure that the decisions are meaningful. Meaning the students have to make up the ideas and have meanings for each idea of why they want to learn this idea. The pupil and the teacher planning is a key to democracy in the classroom, and it is a process that gives some freedom to the students as well as teachers in decisions about what is studied. Teacher may have the students watch a film and have students come up with questions about the film that may have not been answered, and students are wanting more information about the topic. Textbooks are a tool to be used rather than as a source of indisputable knowledge. Henry views schools as a vehicle for social change. He calls on teachers to be transformative intellectuals and wants to participate in creating a new society. Schools should practice creative pedagogy, which unites theory and practice as it provides students with the critical thinking tools to be change agents. Humanism is an educational philosophy that is concerned with enhancing and innate goodness of individuals. It rejects a group-oriented education system and seeks ways to enhance the individual's development of the student. Rousseau believed that the child entered the world not as a blank slate, but certain innate qualities and tendencies are in this child when they're born, and believed in the basic goodness of all humans at birth. Education should be a process of developing a free, self-actualized person, a process that is centered on students' feelings. Education should not start with the great idea, the world, or humankind, but the individual student themselves. Humanists believe that education should be without coercion or perception, and that students should be active learners and make their own choices. Students need to be active and should be encouraged to make their own choices. Teachers should follow humanistic theory, emphasizing instruction and assessment based on the student's interests, their abilities, and their needs as a human being. Students determine the rules that will govern the classroom life, and they make choices about the books to read and exercises to complete. Curriculum of any school is found not so much as a subject matter, but rather the environment in which the subject matter is taught. Humanistic school environment is one in which people share their thoughts, their feelings, beliefs, fears, and aspirations with one another without feeling judged, and that everybody cares about them. Educators should attempt to personalize education in less radical ways, including individualism, instruction, open access curriculum, non-graded instruction, and multi-age grouping. Block scheduling permits flexibility for students to arrange classes of their choice. Free schools, storefront schools, schools without walls, and area vocational centers provide humanistic alternatives to traditional school environments. Educational programs need to address the needs of the individual and are usually more costly per pupil than traditional group center programs.